The funding for this video is provided by the amazing members of my Patreon. Also contributions from viewers like you. Thank you. Yeah, I started from PBS Kids. What you gonna do? Fight me? Anyway, roll the video.
You rewatched the Kim Possible movie the other day, right?
Yeah.
Is it any good?
Actually, it's better than I remembered. There was something in it that really stuck with me.
What was it?
We're going out tonight. The scene is out of sight. Gonna get my girls together. We'll be feeling alright. We're gonna move through the crowd. Come on, boys, get loud. 'Cause when the music starts bumping, the whole place will be jumping. It's my scene, my scene. You know what I mean. It's my scene, my scene. You know what I mean. My scene.
Hi, may I take your order, please?
He said one Happy Meal, please.
Here you go. Thank you.
Thanks.
Now you can join the mission with all kinds of Kim Possible mega fun stuff. There's one Kim-tastic toy in every McDonald's Happy Meal. So get happy.
Booyah!
Come on, Ron. We are on a mission.
Oh, what is it with the pants?
I know y'all are confused as to why we are doing Dr. Seuss cosplay today. Trust me, it will make sense. Just keep watching. So when I was 16 years old, I met this woman with a very empowering story. And because of how heart-wrenching it was, it always really stuck with me. And I want you guys to know about her story just as well. Here with me, I have her book is Yellow Tulips on a Cloudy Day, a survivor's journal. I will have the link to this down below if any of you guys are interested in purchasing and reading. Highly recommend, it's a great read. And because of today's subject matter, you will find me dancing around certain words that I'm saying because I don't want to get demonetized because bills is due. Bills is due. As someone who grew up as a little feminist and during my childhood and first few years of adulthood that I'm still in, I have met a few women who have been in these particular situations. Situations where they are put in distress and in pain by a man. On one of the days that I had modeling, I found out from the makeup artist, Beauty by Chata, you guys should follow her, that it's normalized not to do anything if someone is being a word that ends with E out in public. And when I was in high school, I ended up meeting this woman that I mentioned earlier in this by the name of Christy Sims. And she was invited by the school to talk to the girls about her story. Christy Sims is a survivor that turned into an activist, I'd say, after her boyfriend at the time. But when she was dating him, she was this close to ending the relationship. He threw acid in her face and he saw it coming. He knew that things were going to end, but also there were signs that led up to him doing this to her. Now, while he never hit her, what he was doing was very unacceptable. He was possessive of her and he was also very much jealous of her. I'm telling y'all, like, men be hating. Like, what the fuck? Men be hating for real. And then there was a time period when the couple did break up. He begged her to take him back, which she did. Red flag. And men often tend to take advantage of women when they feel as if they are in vulnerable situations. As Christy is a single mother of 2, and this is important to know in my opinion simply because single mothers tend to get a lot of shit. A lot of unwarranted shit, and people tend to look down upon them for being single moms and not the man that made them a single mother. But I digress. But anyways, back to Christy. When her boyfriend at the time threw acid in her face, he made it look like it was an air quote accident. And he was the one who called the cops. He was the one who had taken her to the hospital when it happened. So to know that the person that was responsible for hurting her was the one who got her into the hospital is so unsettling. And it took so long for it to be proven that this was not an accident because of the effects that this acid had on her. He threw sulfuric acid in her face, and for those of you guys who don't know, that shit can burn you. Beauty, especially within the face, is something that many women hold near and dear to them, and that's why you often hear more stories about women getting work done on their face compared to men. Like, there's a literal channel on YouTube dedicated to pointing out celebrity plastic surgeries, and most of the people that are spoken about in those videos are women or assigned female at birth. Him throwing acid in her face was his way of trying to make her undesirable, as he felt that if he could not have her, no one else did. And he thought taking her looks away would ruin her. Now, moving forward from Christy and her story, I want to bring up a woman by the name of Helen Palmer. If you know, you know. It's what I'm wearing right now. And if you don't know who Helen is, you for sure know who her husband is, because almost everyone has read one of his books as a kid. Question, is Dr. Seuss a big deal outside of like English speaking countries? Comment down below, I'm curious. But anyway, I've dragged him before on this channel. Dr. Seuss. Aside from Helen being his wife, she was also a writer, and she was the person who helped Dr. Seuss with the stories he created. Oh yeah, Dr. Seuss cheated on her. Now, it has been questioned numerous times if cheating is a form of brutalization. So I'm gonna give you guys some context about what happened with Dr. Seuss and Helen at the time of Theodore Geisel's infidelity. Helen at the time had cancer. I'm telling y'all, Dr. Seuss is a bitch for real. Oh my god, how could you do that? Anyway, back to Helen. As I said, she had cancer, and when someone has this, they most likely are not in a good, point in their life. They're very much at their lowest. Because this hurt her so much, Helen took her own life. So him doing this to her at that time of her life when she was dealing with so much, with so many hardships, that was so much on her, it led to her passing away. And that right there took her own life. It can be read to be as a word that ends with E, because I don't need this video getting demonetized. No, you're probably asking, what the hell does this have to do with Kim Possible? Hi everyone, the captain here. I just wanted to get on here real quick and tell you guys thank you so much for your support. I have gotten so much fan art from you guys, and I've met plenty of y'all in person at the conventions that I have been at. And also thank you guys so much for coming to the panels that I host. It means so much to me. You guys are so great. I appreciate every little last bit of support you guys give me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can say thank you 100 times, but I truly do mean it. Thank you. Kim Possible. The show that made me realize that I love the boss and assistant trope. But Kim Possible is something that I enjoy more as an adult now than I did as a kid. My feelings towards Kim Possible are similar to my feelings towards Hey Arnold, because the people in the scenarios within these series feel very real, while the shows are also very over the top. And I like it more now that I notice things that I didn't notice when I was younger, like things that make you go, they really did that. As a kid, I never really caught on about a lot of the things between Shigo and Draken's dynamic, especially when I realized that Shigo lives with him because she basically don't got nowhere else to go. Or understanding why Kim needed a friend like Monique, as I have a lot of opinions about Monique's character. But anyway, because Ron was sweet when she needed him, but she also needed a female friend that liked the same things as she did. And also Monique challenged Kim. Ron was kind of a yes man for her. But also one thing about Kim Possible is that I never even realized how big this show was at the time until now that I'm an adult and I am looking back at that time period and realizing that this is one of the first times we ever really saw when like a kid cartoon had a major impact on people. Like, it was that big to the point where it got its own DCOM, and Kim Possible is proof that there needs to be more animated Disney Channel original movies. Make more. Anybody that know me know I am not the type of person that's just gonna sit here and lie about DCOMs, okay? Plenty of them are awful ass movies, and it's okay to admit that. Camp Rock, terrible. Nah, Camp Rock is straight ass cheeks. Y'all can't defend that one. There's only a few animated DCOMs that are based on cartoons, with Kim Possible being one of them, which goes to show you how big of a deal that it was. Like, Kim Possible was that girl. Like, now that we in this day and age, we be like, Kim Possible wasn't that fucking big, but no, she was a big deal, okay? She was kind of like Hannah Montana before Hannah Montana came along. She had her own Happy Meal, she had her own toys, and the side characters were like just as entertaining just as well. People make Kim Possible inspired merchandise, like myself, that you guys will see later on in this little documentary, because I can call it that. People still go and cosplay from this series all the time. People even have that communicator ringtone. And I have a funny little story I'll give, because I remember in high school my phone went off and I had it, and this girl who I did not like, she heard it and she straight up told me that she hated it. Dickhead. I never realized that this show was that big of a deal until it got its own live action movie. And I truly do not care about what your opinion on that film is. You hate the movie, fine, but I like it and you're not changing my opinion on it. Goodbye. And what kills me the most about that, this is the last thing I'm gonna say before we move on, a bunch of y'all who drag that movie, you can't even tell what happened in more than 5 episodes of the show. Bye. Let alone the film we're talking about today. Now, before we go any further, we need to address who Kim was as a person and how she ended up in the A word that ends with E kind of relationship. Because as a kid, I didn't really grasp the concept of who Kim actually was. Like, she was literally that bitch. She was super duper strong. Everyone liked her. So it makes you go and sit and think, how could she end up in this kind of situation? But Kim Possible being in this kind of situation is proof that it can happen to anybody. Which is why y'all should not victim blame. As a kid, I didn't really grasp a concept of who Kim actually was until I became an adult and understood more things about the series. Like, I knew she was a cheerleader, which she was one of the inspirations for why I wanted to do cheerleading. Like, she could cheer, she could kick your ass. And the one thing that flew over my head until I was like a teenager on how many people knew who the fuck she was. But Kim Possible was pretty much an influencer. But she was more than that, because she was technically a celebrity, but social media wasn't really a thing like it was back in the 2000s. But what's interesting about Kim is that she used the internet as a way to, like, you know, get fame, because she didn't start helping people and going on missions or whatever for fame. She was doing it mainly because she needed a job and she needed money. That ended up making her like a self-made celebrity. It's very interesting to see. Like, everyone knew her, everyone loved her. She had haters because, yeah, she's that girl. Of course she's gonna have haters. Like, Kim literally had people that wanted to be her. But being in the public eye can often put you in vulnerable situations because so many people know who you are. And oftentimes people that are in the public eye, whether it be online or are in real life, tend to struggle with people using them or wanting to get close to them simply to hurt them. Yeah, anyway. So when you have this in mind on who she is, and then you watch the soda drama movie, the decom that came along with the series, it's very unsettling because you knew that this was something that was very much intentional. So in soda drama, Kim gets involved with a guy named Eric. And she thinks he's so sweet and she likes him, and she just tends to ignore all like the weird shit about him. But he's very much creepy, as he basically followed her to the mall when her and Monique went shopping for dresses.
Kim, hey.
Hey,
You should buy that dress.
I should?
And nobody really seems to realize that there is something off about Eric, like not even Monique. I feel like as if because he had that typical pretty boy look to him, that most likely has something to do with it. That just falls into the subject of pretty privilege. But the only person who was not really feeling Eric was Ron, who is Kim's best friend.
Hey, get in line. She owes me a soda before she even met you.
I have a lot of opinions about Ron's behavior in this film because a lot of people defend it, but also he was wrong, kind of. Here's the deal with Ron in this movie. Ron wasn't acting that way for the most part because he noticed that Eric was fucking creepy. He was acting that way because Ron had a crush on Kim and didn't want to end it. And that aspect right there kind of makes the relationship that she had with Eric in the film more terrifying because no one, not even Ron, and I feel like Ron did notice, but he was just more concerned about, oh, this Kim is dating another guy and not me. But like I said, no one, not even Ron, could see how concerning Eric's behavior was until it was too late when Kim gets knocked the fuck out by Eric. Yes, he did. That happened in a Disney Channel original movie. And as this is a kid's movie, this is supposed to be the plot twist. But remember that adults are the ones that made this movie, people who have had experiences with relationships. But if you paid close attention to Eric's behavior throughout this whole movie, you would have saw that the signs were there and this wasn't a twist. It was a sad part that happened, but it wasn't very much a twist because this happens oftentimes with a lot of real life relationships. Like when I was little and I watched this movie, I was shocked that he knocked her unconscious. Knowing that he knocked her the fuck out, I decided to pay more attention to Eric's behavior. The signs were there because he was stalking her. Yeah. One thing a lot of people don't seem to understand when it comes to the subject of stalking is that a lot of these people are ones that like get close to you because Kim willingly let him in her home, not even understanding and realizing that this dude was stalking her. That is scary. And for those of you guys who do not know, stalking is a form of harassment because Eric stalked her to get closer to her so he can hurt her in the end. And it also got to a point where he took Kim's phone and put it away from her, and that shit sent me in a rage.
I think Wade will understand.
Yeah.
Because it was giving Arashi and Miwakao from Paradise Kiss.
What are you doing? Don't go reading my text messages.
It's your own fault for sneaking behind my back.
Give it back!
If you don't want people reading your text messages, then maybe you should have deleted them.
And now that I brought those two up, we have to talk about them. Because if you know, you know. If you don't, you broke. Here's a brief rundown on Paradise Kiss. It's basically a story about fashion and modeling. Like shit like that is really all you need to know about it because it's the kind of story that focuses more on character than plot. My favorite kind of storytelling. And it's by Aizawa. Many of you guys may be familiar with her more known work, which is Nana, which is just not my cup of tea, but I prefer her other stuff just as well. She may have something that you guys may like. Highly recommend. There are issues with her works, specifically with the subjects of homophobia and transphobia, but we can have a more nuanced discussion about her work on another day. When it comes to Paradise Kiss, there's a point in the story where we are able to tell that Araishi's behavior is more wrong than Eric, as Eric is more gentle and nicer, and Araishi is very much aggressive. And I strongly dislike how his appearance was like this punk rocker type of dude, because his mother, Risa, she was so sweet. Like, and she looked like him too. And he was like, you know, I'm not trying to be like, you know, how stereotypical, how dudes that have like a lot of piercings and wear chains and stuff like that are dangerous. I hate the fact that his character is dangerous and he looks like that. Araishi and Miwako are the side couple in the story of Paradise Kiss that I highly recommend reading the manga instead of watching the anime, because I personally found it more enjoyable that way. But anyway, Miwako, like Kim, is a girl who's fairly nice and gets along well with everyone, and she also is a bit in the public eye too, just as well as her older sister Mikako, who could run me my fate in Paradise Kiss, is a well-known fashion designer. Araishi, on the other hand, he is not nice. And when he takes Miwako's phone, he breaks it, and it's because he finds out that she is talking to a guy friend that he told her not to speak to. Red flag. Moving back to Eric and Kim, Eric is smiling. He's neutral. And while he doesn't break Kim's phone like Araishi did with Miwako, he still takes it from her and basically told her indirectly to not talk to Wade. Eric paints himself out to be a nice guy when he's just as nasty as Araishi on the inside. He just knows how to control his temper better. That's fun. And shit like this is why we are told to be cautious of nice guys. Throwing some Family Matter shade in there because Steve Urkel ain't shit. But guys that paint themselves out to be respectful when they are just like the others, they just aren't so in your face about it. So in the moment when Eric knocks out Kim, she is in a very vulnerable state because she's scared, she's worried, she thinks that he's hurt. In this moment, she is hugging him. He took advantage of that and saw that as the moment to knock her unconscious. I'm sorry, y'all. It was just so disturbing. And what also makes it scarier is because, as we find out in the movie, that Eric is not a real person and that this shit was planned by Draken and Shigo.
Okay, editing me here, but like, I'm at this section right now talking about Draken and Shiko, but I just want to bring up how like nobody really ever addresses the elephant in the room when it comes to her character, and she is creepy, like, as hell. Like, she's extremely creepy. Like, I actually have a whole video that I plan later on in this year, just kind of like analyzing Shigo as a whole, as a character, kind of like what I did in my Woman Unhinged video. But there's just so much about her that can just be analyzed and dissected. But I just dead ass feel bad for this woman. But no, she's creepy, y'all. We gotta start talking about it.
And I like Shigo, but she was dead wrong for this, okay? Like, this is one of the most fucked up things that she has done. And this is partly why I don't understand why she got redeemed at the end of the show. Like, her and Draken didn't need redemption. Like, okay, but anyway. Honestly, I feel like them giving Shigo and Draken redemption was fan service. But anyway, let's continue. I don't like the last season of Kim Possible, if you guys can't tell. But Shigo was a grown-ass woman, so thinking back, she knows more about relationships and such, so she planned this shit out, because y'all know Draken not that smart. He couldn't have made this up on his own. So Shigo helped Draken. They both knew that if they were to create a guy, that would be the kind of guy that Kim would like, because if you guys are not aware, if you guys don't pay close attention to Kim Possible, because like I said, a lot of y'all asses can't even tell you what happened in 5 episodes of this series. Kim is basically being stalked by Draken and Shigo. It's very, very concerning. But they knew that if they were able to create a guy that Kim would like, because they paid so much damn attention to her, she would get close to him, and when that moment came, and she snapped on her. It was so fucking weird, okay? Like I said, Draken was the one that was controlling him. Draken ain't that damn smart. Like I said, Shigo was the one helping him, and she helped him come up with that fucked up plan. That is so nasty. Especially when it's just like the culture that surrounds that so many women have been in a word that ends with E, situations and relationships, and to know that trapping Kim into that would literally they may have been able to get her. That is so disturbing. Like, that is one of the most vile things that I have seen from a villain from the Disney company. Bravo! Shiko and Draken, in my opinion, are literally great villains, okay? Because they don't really rely on stereotypes, even though Shiko has done some questionable things at some points in the show. One day I'm just gonna sit here and just talk about how Kim Possible has a bad issue with racial insensitivity, but we didn't come here today on this video to talk about racism. But like I said, Shiko and Draken were literally great villains because they were aware that if they were able to catch Kim in her moments where she was the most loving, they could defeat her. And long story short, they did it. They did it. And I'm still low-key salty. Not low-key, high-key salty that Draken and Shiko got redeemed at the end. For what reason did y'all need to do that? The last season, I hate the last season of this show.
Hi, so there's one more thing that I want to add on to this before we move on into the next section of the video, and that has to do with the film called Perfect Blue. And if you have, like, you know, been on my channel before, or if you ever been on my blog on my website, you know that I am a big fan of this film. I have done cosplays for it, but I didn't seem to realize how so many of the similarities with Kim Possible in general, but especially like Soul and Drama and Perfect Blue share, because of both of these things are about a famous girl, where Mima is really a woman that is in her 20s, while Kim Possible pretty much is a teenage girl. And Perfect Blue is very much terrifying because it's about how being in the public eye can also affect how you see yourself, but it also, like, you know, you're more vulnerable to people stalking you and being all up in your business and people trying to be you and people lying on you and shit like that. But it's a bit more terrifying when it comes to Kim Possible because, as I mentioned, she was a teenager, and as she was in the public eye, everyone knew her, everyone recognized her where she go. Of course, I'm not surprised that she had a stalker. Like, that dude, that nigga was fucking crazy. He was literally stalking her, literally watching her every move, but she didn't even really catch on to it like that. That's why you gotta be especially careful when it comes to whoever you meet. If you are somebody that has like a platform online, you really have to like watch your tracks. But Kim didn't really recognize that. And then we also have to remember that she was like 17, 18 too at the time when this happened. So it just kind of like flew over her head. She just saw it as this dude being nice to her. And that was the same thing that happened in Perfect Blue with Mima, where somebody had made like this blog of her like pretending to be Mima, and she thought it was funny at first, but then like the more it went on, she started to realize, okay, this shit is creepy and I do not like it. But as I mentioned earlier about how Kim was like 17 and 18, the show starts off when she's like 14 and like freshman year of high school, and she already has all of this fame onto her. Like, the creepiest thing about it is that people knew where Kim went to school at. That is extremely fucking dangerous, because I remember especially, I don't know why they did this shit when I was watching iCarly, but Sam went out here and told the entire world where all of them went to school at, and I was like, that is so fucking dangerous. But Eric, that dude I mentioned, how he was like basically stalking her, and he was like the new kid at the school and everything like that, because Draken and Shiko are always stalking Kim. They are always on her ass. They never let her breathe. They just never go a day without her being like doing whatever to her. They were fully aware of where she go to school. They popped up at her school before too. They were like, hey, why don't we send a drone robot dude that Kim, like, make him a guy that Kim would like, and then send him there. Like, I'm telling you, Perfect Blue is a film that truly was ahead of its time, because it's so influential on so much of the work that we have now, and people don't seem to realize it, because they did the entire stalker situation then in the 90s. But, you know, as time evolves and the way people, you know, use fame is in different ways, because Perfect Blue came out during a time where like the internet wasn't really a thing. Like, it was a thing, but it's not like what it is now, or at least how it was during the MySpace era. Kim Possible was out during like the MySpace era, or a little bit before that. But Kim Possible was like before the MySpace era. And this was basically an era where people were starting to realize that they could get attention on the internet. Like, this is pre-YouTube. This is when you used to have a blog and everything like that. Kim Possible is one of the first figures I can actually say got like internet fame and was like actually an influencer, like I mentioned early on in this video. And it was super eye patch wolf. I even quoted him for my art my paper that I had wrote for school, and he was talking about how Perfect Blue is honestly more relevant now than it was then, because back then, like in the 90s when Perfect Blue came out, the internet wasn't really a thing, and really the only way to be famous was like you had to like actually work in the industry. You had to be a singer. You had to go around doing shows and this and that and the third. And Mima basically was one of those. She was an idol. She was a singer, but then, you know, she had an agency. She was an actress. People actually knew who she was. Like, as like, Mima was a real celebrity. Even though she could actually go out in public and people not really recognize who she was very much notable in the things that she was in, because at the end of the film we did see that people were recognizing her, but they weren't exactly sure if that was Mima or not. But like with Kim Possible, when you're watching the show, you realize that people know who she is. Every fucking where she goes, she get recognized. People be like, hey, you're Kim Possible, this and that and the third. Because I remember like Monique even recognized her like in the episode when they became friends. And people have mentioned things to her talking about, oh, everyone likes you, everyone this, everyone that. Like Kim Possible was a very much well-liked person. And the only people that didn't like her were like, you know, Bonnie. Bonnie was just a fucking bitch, okay? But it was like that with Mima, how like the only people who really just kind of didn't like her were like just people that were like haters or whatever. It's just kind of jarring to me how Kim Possible was able to make this platform for herself. She literally is like the staple for what a lot of people are nowadays. Hell, even me. Like, I literally have my website. I have my YouTube channel. Like, I even said iCarly was like an inspiration for that. But I didn't even really grasp the concept of that Kim was using the internet in order to go on missions. Basically, like, using the internet for her job at the time period. Like, of her helping people and whatever the fuck. It's just something that really just kind of flew over my head. It kind of, like I said, Perfect Blue is a film that scares me a lot more now as an adult than it was when I watched it as a kid. Should not have been watching that shit that young, but mainly because I understand it and I get it a lot more now, because I was in a similar situation to Shigo, and I was in a bit of a similar situation to Kim just as well. It's fucking terrifying and it's scary. Like, it's just something to think about. It's just something to think about, because I know how I'm bringing in a lot of different things with this video as we're talking about bell hooks later on, but we're talking about, you know, Christy Sims and then Paradise Kiss. It's very interesting to see how all of these things are so much different from each other, but they all connect in similar ways when it has to do with the nature of how we like view relationships and like being in the public eye and all of that in the sorts. It's kind of terrifying. Not kind of terrifying. It's very fucking terrifying. As I was reading Bell Hooks' Teaching to Transgress, as I was reading, I really couldn't help but think about the kind of content that I create and how what I made related to what I was speaking about in today's subject matter. Because I think it's important for us to learn about toxic relationships so we can avoid them as much as possible. Because the reason why we had Miss Christy Sims come up to our school to speak to us about her relationship is because this is something that isn't necessarily taught to us, but it should be. But it's something that does need to be taught, but it would help so many more. And I figured that is why it is so hard to teach people nowadays. Because when it comes to teaching and learning, a lot of people don't want to learn, and a lot of people find it hard to teach people because a lot of people find learning to be boring. Teaching is a performative act. It is that aspect of our work that offers the space for change, invention, spontaneous shifts that can serve as a catalyst, drawing in the unique elements in each classroom. To embrace the performative aspect of teaching, we are compelled to engage audiences to consider issues of reciprocity. Teachers are not performers in the traditional sense of the word, in that our work is not meant to be a spectacle. Yet it is meant to serve as a catalyst that calls everyone to be more and more engaged, to become active participants in learning. There is a serious crisis in education. Students often do not want to learn, and teachers do not want to teach. More than ever before in the recent history of the nation, educators are compelled to confront the biases they have shaped teaching practices in our society to create new ways of knowing
different strategies of sharing of knowledge. We cannot address this crisis if progressive critical thinkers and social critics act as though teaching is not a subject worthy of our regard. And yeah, by the way, y'all, this shit was written in the 90s. Still very, very relevant today. And one thing I have noticed in particular is that a lot of people aren't really open to learning in non-traditional ways. Example, YouTube, especially a video essay about a cartoon from the 2000s that is not on PBS Kids, meaning that it is not educational content. Or is it? And while I am in no way, shape, or form a teacher, and as Teaching to Transgress is a book that is meant for teachers, but there's so much that can be taken away from this. But like I said, I'm not a teacher, but I would be lying if I said I didn't get on this damn site and actually teach people things. But I met this one mother and she was so lovely, and she was like, "Thank you for teaching my daughter what they don't teach her in school." But because of this notion that many have as what they can use for learning, it leads to a lot of lack of nuance when we have family entertainment, and anime too, just as well, because it's a cartoon. And just anything that has to do with drawings in general. With Helen Palmer, I think if we are going to continue to be taught about her bitch ass husband, because that was bitch behavior, I'm sorry, not sorry. I think we should learn about her too, especially because she was a part of the reason why Dr. Seuss was so successful. Not telling Helen's story is just contributing to the pain that she suffered caused by Dr. Seuss in the last few days of her life. We don't need to keep doing that. I think we need to tell her story too. And in my new book that I am coming out with called No One Ruined Your Childhood, I do speak more about Helen Palmer and the situation with her and Dr. Seuss. So please make sure you guys purchase the book when it comes. Now moving back to Christy Sims. She goes around teaching people of all the signs of a bad relationship so they can get out of them or avoid them at all costs before it gets to that point. As it is something plenty of us aren't taught and we have to figure it out on our own. Like, one thing in particular that I took away from this, that it was certain things that she mentioned that I thought were cute and romantic were actually harmful and hurtful. And honestly, her advice has helped me get out of bad situations before, especially with two people that I was close to. And as she taught me about that, I wanted to teach you guys about that, but with something that you never thought it would correlate to. That being a Disney Channel cartoon. You can pretty much find nuance with everything in kid and family entertainment, because I think people tend to forget that these are adults making these shows and movies. People who have been through things, and they use these things that they have experienced in their lives and the art that they create. Am I upset that Kim Possible decided to have this arc in its storyline? No, not at all. You thought I was gonna sit here and complain about that? No. Remember, nuance. The reason I wasn't upset about them having this kind of storyline in it is because it's not necessarily played for laughs, as kids media has numerous issues with making fun of things that shouldn't be laughed at. And it's made pretty clear to the audience that this is wrong. And they got the point across on like something else, bit in mouth. Anyway, but the two, that being Eric and Kim, did not end up together in the end. She got with her male best friend, Ron, and as I said, I do have my opinions about Kim ending up with Ron, but I will keep those to myself because I'm just not in the mood for people to tell me I'm wrong because I didn't want them to be romantically involved. It's just my preference. But back with Paradise Kiss. Spoiler alert for those of you guys who have not seen it or you want to. I'm about to spoil it, so you might as well just skip it. Miwako and Reishi get married and have a child together. This is upsetting, but it's not a problem that this happened. I mean, it is a problem, but bear with me. Kim Possible, though, okay, let me put Bell Hooks' book over here because it keeps sliding out of my lap. Kim Possible, though it can be enjoyed by people of all ages, its targeted audience is elementary and middle schoolers. These are the people that this show is made for. And we're talking about Kim Possible from a manga and anime perspective. Kim Possible falls into the category of shoujo. But if we're being honest, with some of the shit they put in there, it'd be given shonen. But anyway, Shoujo is basically targeted towards young girls and teenagers. Paradise Kiss is josei. Josei is targeted towards grown women. Like literally, if you look on the back of the manga, it has like 18 plus. Like that's letting you know that this story is not appropriate for all ages. I'll get up and show it to you guys. Hold on. I am back with the Paradise Kiss manga. Haha. But as you guys can see here on the back of it, it says older teen. And then also, by the way, a lot of you guys want to learn the difference between a shoujo and a josei. This is a little off topic, but usually the rating will be on the back of it because I have life lessons with Uchimachi Onisan, which is a josei, and the rating is on the back, letting you know. Josei, baby. I'm very big on I'm a josei queen, y'all, okay? I have more coming about that later.
I talked before about the anime genre shoujo, which is primarily focused on young girls as the audience and sorts of stories they tend to prefer. That is, stories that center around the interpersonal relationships of the character and the emotional aspects that go along with them. Well, josei anime is basically the same thing, but for girls and women who are no longer in high school. The typical reader of josei manga or josei anime is a woman who is somewhere between her late teens and early 40s. One of the main aspects that distinguish it from shoujo is that josei will typically portray a realistic romance with all the struggles and problems that can come with one, as opposed to more idealistic romances that are usually found in josei.
When things are targeted towards adults, you can show realistic and horrible relationship aspects and have the characters stay together, because if you're a grown woman and you're letting fictional relationships affect your dating life, then that's on you and not the material. And mind you, I am not somebody that tends to care when people ship like toxic relationships. But with nuance, please. With children's media, if you're gonna show a horrible relationship, specifically with kid characters, it doesn't need to be shown as something that should be romanticized or promoted as cute or whatnot. And when I say toxic relationships, I am talking about where it is legal and the people are like fucked up. Like Draken and Shiko, that's a toxic ass relationship and I eat it up all the time. Anyway, let's continue. Like I said, in children's media, if you're gonna show a horrible relationship, it needs to actually be shown that it's terrible. It should not be promoted as cute when it's not. Kim Possible did not do that with this film, and that's why this aspect of the film makes the movie much stronger for me now as an adult than it was when I was little. It personally made me more invested within the story, knowing that this was going to happen, because when I was little and I watched this movie, I was happy with the fact that she didn't get with him in the end, because Eric was just dead ass bad guy Chun-Li. But now that I am an adult and I'm grown and I have changed a lot since then when I had saw this movie, I'm able to pick up on all the patterns, and I learned that he was bad from the jump. And also, one thing I just kind of want to point out is that if all work is wholesome and sweet, then it would be very much boring. And I don't like it when people often complain about adult media and just like media like this having like fucked up relationships, because art imitates life. But with family entertainment, you are allowed to have those aspects in there, but you need to make it pretty clear that it's wrong and it shouldn't be played for laughs. This is why when we talk about how a lot of family entertainment seems to fail when it comes to the subject of racism, because they'll have something racist in there and it's not handled well and it's played for laughs. And we were like, if you're gonna have racist shit in this show, it needs to be shown that it's wrong, not simply because you think it's okay. And baby, I'm looking at you with that clown shit. As I said, it needs to be made that it's clear that it's wrong because of its targeted audience. Because while yes, anyone can watch Kim Possible, you're never too old to watch Disney cartoons, okay? But remember that this is on Disney Channel, a network that has programming appropriate for all ages, so they have to be more cautious about what's going on into it. And Kim Possible is not satire. Like, it can feel a bit satiric at certain times, but overall, it's not satire. And even with satire, you have to be careful with numerous things, because if you make something a little too untasteful, you will get dragged, especially if you are not a part of the marginalized group that is being a part of that shit. A lot of y'all can learn from that, especially you people that don't want to accept the fact that there's misogynoir in the Boondocks. Now, while Disney Channel has its numerous issues with poking fun at serious topics and situations that are no laughing matter, this was one of the ones where I think it was handled very well. And it is part of the reason why Kim Possible Soda Drama is one of the DComs that has aged well.
Yeah, I really should give this a rewatch.
Honestly, it's worth it.
Now that you see, you should beware of the power of three. They come to fight as fast as they can. They're dangerous yet fabulous. Because of Utonium made them eschew. They are the colors of pink, green, and blue. They'll catch you in the blink of an eye.